G'day, blindies.
Notification volume 0%.
Hey, Samson, get your plug. We'll get on with what we're doing now, eh? Thank you. Alright. G'day, blindies. Welcome to the second episode of Blind Garage Night Edition. Well, tonight, I've decided for this episode, we're going to get a bit of background on the blind man. A lot of you want to know my story and where I come from and how I got here, I suppose. And this is my way of putting it to you. I was born in Sydney, grew up in Fairfield West, pretty rough neighbourhood next door to Cabramatta for the 80s and 90s. Had pretty cool parents. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable, you know. We owned our house, we were always clothed, we were always fed. Dad was a bit of a wild man, riding to his cars and bikes, and that's where I get it from. Mum was sweet and very staunch, very protective. But yeah, grew up in Fairfield West during the 80s, early 90s. Early 90s were a good time for me. Teenager in western suburbs, heaps of old Holdens and Fords for cheap money. Ripping the streets up, being a bit of a hoon. I never got my licence. I was disqualified before I was even old enough to get it, which is my stupid fault. I remained disqualified till I was 38 years of age, guys. Got charged a lot of times for unlicensed, disqualified, unregistered, uninsured. More times than you probably imagine. If I told you the number, you probably wouldn't believe it. But it was a lot. I was bad. I was a addicted driver and rider. I couldn't stop. The only thing that actually did stop me was my blindness. I lived in Sydney till I was about 15. Then my parents moved to the Central Coast, Umina, where I was fortunate enough to live across the road from the beach, and different scene, still into the cars and bikes, but different cars and bikes up there. So I learned a bit of a different culture, and that all suburbs and they have their different things and that, and that yeah, there's a lot out there. It's where I got intrigued. I have no idea what that noise is, but it stopped. There we go, a bit of entertainment. So, after living in the Central Coast for a few years with my parents and getting into surfing and working in a pizza shop and riding around on motorbikes like a lunatic and buying cheap, useless cars, beating them up, went back to Sydney, got into a lot of trouble, guys. Yeah, a lot of stupid trouble. Pretty much got sent away because of my naughty behaviour to Western Australia, where things got worse. I got in even more trouble, suffered a lot of tragedy over there, and eventually, with my tail between my legs, to be honest with you, came back to New South Wales about 25 years ago. Hung in Sydney for a few years, met a girl, as it goes, done a bit more travelling up to Queensland, had a baby, ended up settling in Port Macquarie for a few years. The relationship went south, things got messy, we parted company, headed to Grafton. I originally come up here to help a mate shut down a riding centre, and I got stuck here. Great town, I can go surfing and I can go motorbike riding within half an hour of town. Good people. Opened a few shops and that up here, helped a few mates with shops in Sydney. Pretty much been a mechanic, grease monkey my whole life. Ask anyone that knows me, there's not much about a car or a motorbike I didn't know and couldn't do myself and do it well. Ended up the relationship with the girl I'd met in Grafton, I was with for quite some time. It went south too. Life happens that way. So I decided to get a fresh start and I moved to Queensland. I got a job, worked hard. Me and my partner started a detailing business, went really well. We had a son who was premature. During that, we had to close down our detailing shop, move into the city from the bush, and from there, some people don't cope in the city, and we were them people. She hated it, where things fell apart. They got messy. I'm not going to get into how I went blind, but it's not a good story. It's very heart-wrenching, but that's the background on the blind man before I went blind. On our next episode, I'll have a think about it, and I may tell you how I went blind. Judge me as you will. I can't change what happened. But that's my background. I was a out of control, disqualified driver who pretty much run amok and live life to the fullest. And when you live like that, karma will bite you. The only way I could ever stop driving was to go blind. I'm disqualified in New South Wales to 2067 with a disqualification pending. Want to be a dickhead? Don't do it on the street, guys. Take it to the track. Because you don't want to lose your license for as long as I have, for one, and karma can bite you in the weirdest ways. The only thing that would ever stop me driving was taking away my sight. Now I'm doing the life sentence. So, that's the background on the blind man till I went blind. Next episode, I'll tell you how I went dealing with it. Cheers, everyone. Always remember, keep your tyres turning for Tilly.
Stop button.